Greetings, everyone. Today for my KYI'RA portal, I'm going to be reading about and adding commentary on the Sacred On. This is more information than I have been talking about, but it's also not new. It's from my website. I have a lot of written material, and probably many of you have read all of this, but I'm going to go through it, and not all of the material, but certain key parts of it, and make some commentary, kind of trying to draw it together, clarify it, perhaps to simplify it, and to give a few different perspectives on it all. After all, I've written this in various time periods. So right now, if I draw it all together, I think I can bring it into a more current understanding, perhaps. That's my intention anyway. So we begin with the original Ark was gifted to the earth and its humanity. You know, I don't think this is right. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, I am talking. Rather than start all over again, I'm just going to, with the video, because it's hard to do using Zoom, I'm just going to say, pardon me, and I'll start again. I was afraid I had my mic off. So let's begin again. The original Ark was gifted to the earth and its humanity eons ago. It was translated from a planet inside the blue star Rigel in the constellation of Orion. According to my Akashic perspective, higher intelligence beings exist in planet or world systems inside their star suns. One of the purposes of this gift was to aid the gift of the On, the sacred On to the planet Earth, was to aid in the rebalancing of the supramagnetic sheaths of this planet, and thereby aligning them more closely to their mother realm of the blue star. The higher energy sheaths of Earth and Venus did not originate in this solar system, but were projected from the blue star Rigel in Orion. This is a story, there is a story to this I won't be telling here, but the topic is vast, so now I return to the Ark itself. The ancients called this first Ark the Sacred On. My inner plane's mentor Thoth has referred to it as the Ark of Grace. The greater purpose and function of the Sacred On was to act as a conduit for high-frequency signals sent from a device in Rigel to Earth, which radiated the light and perfection, as it was called, of the original divine template of mankind. This light and perfection Thoth is referred to also as the inscription of light, which is self-inscribing within the hearts of all human beings, and which connects us to the all. However, he also has revealed to me that humanity separated from this light, this inscription of light. They did not leave it. One cannot leave something that is at the core of their very existence, but they removed their focus of intelligence away from it, and therefore their consciousness was separated from it. Yet it still burns for each and every one of us in the center of our hearts. The Sacred On was sent to humanity at a very crucial and difficult time. The planet was in great turmoil. Consciousness vectors were changing, causing a restructuring of the geophysical Earth. Our DNA was suffering from this shift as well. People were becoming more in command of personal will, and thus more division of thought and desire were manifesting within the mass consciousness. Now I'm going to pause here a moment and reflect on this. This last paragraph really could fit today. You know, I mean, we could say that about today. The planet was in great turmoil. Consciousness vectors were changing, causing a restructuring in the geophysical Earth. Our DNA was suffering from this shift as well. People were becoming more in command of personal will, and thus more division of thought and desire were manifesting within mass consciousness. Of course, this has been going on a while, and now it's just all really being revealed. But, you know, as the crow flies, it hasn't been that long that we have been undergoing this intense turmoil that has escalated now that we are seeing Now that all the masks and the gloves are off, and you know the elite, whatever you want to call them, are now really playing hardball with us. They're not even attempting to conceal most of it. Whereas before there was a certain attempt to conceal and sort of soothe us and let us just go on thinking everything was not so bad. It was not good, but not so bad. And now they just said, hey, we're not trying to fool you guys anymore. We can see you aren't being fooled, so to heck with it. We're just telling you we're in control, and that's that. You know, you can't do anything about it. And that is the way things are going now. Well, that's the way they were going when, in maybe in another cultural reference, but the same energy thing was going on when the Ark was delivered to the planet Earth. Because we've been through a lot of cycles of this stuff. And so what's happening now? The Ark is coming alive again, so to speak. It's never been dead, of course, but I mean, it's coming into a full spectrum resonance that even in these times that I'm reading about here, it really wasn't what it's going to be soon. We'll talk about more of that later, but let's continue with this article. It was written, this particular thing was written, brought through and written, I don't know, in the 1990s, I guess. It was in the temple of KYI'RA in what is now Lhasa. No, wait a minute. I skipped a paragraph. Let's go back. In those days, the Sunborn lived among us. These were humans who had strong ultra-terrestrial, illuminated extraterrestrial genetics mixed with human races. They lived much longer than ordinary humans of that age. They were taller, stronger, and more physically radiant. A Sunborn was obviously different on sight than other humans. They were kind, good, and very loving, yet they were somewhat set aside by the populace for the obvious reason of difference. It was the Sunborn who were granted guardianship and operation of the sacred arm for the earth and all humanity. Well, one might ask, well, if people were in such bad shape, how could they be such bad shape when they had the Sunborn walking around? Wouldn't we give a lot to see Sunborns walking down the street? You know, people like Thoth and Saint Germain and all of these just walking around among us. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I mean, why was everything so bad when they were here? Well, the planet was constructed then in a more loosely aligned layers of vibration. So the Sunborn were here, people were aware of it, and they could come in and make their appearance, and they could be here with us. We knew they lived among us and had houses, but there was a real separation of consciousness that was so vast that the main populace was going about their destructive, self-destructive business at that time, even though the Sunborn were among them. And when we say the Sunborn were among them, it wasn't like thousands. You know, there were probably several hundred on the whole planet at that time. I'm using an arbitrary number, but you know, they weren't just all over the place. So there were a lot of factors that make a whole nother video what was really going on then and why the Sunborn weren't able to help people more if they were walking among them, which they can't even do with us now because our vibrational level on this planet is so low now. Thoth couldn't walk among us. You know, he just wouldn't, the vibration wouldn't match enough. So let's continue here. It was in the temple of KYI'RA in what is now Lhasa, Tibet, that the sacred arm was delivered. A special chamber was prepared for it there. The image above shows, well, I don't have the image above here, the sacred arm in its chamber in KYI'RA. My depiction is, of course, not exact, but I do feel that I have managed to capture it fairly well. I'd bring that up and show it to you, but I have absolutely no idea where it is on my computer at the moment. The sacred arm was inside the box. It was never outwardly revealed to anyone but the guardians, priests, and priestesses of On. The outer casing and winged creatures were fashioned in KYI'RA by the Sunborn craft of the brazen serpent. Much gold was used. All the gold in the outer casing of the On and in the chamber itself was created alchemically. There were various types of vibratory levels of this gold employed. Alchemical gold is usually very light in weight. There are exceptions. In fact, if a small token of alchemical gold were to be placed in your hand, you would probably feel a moment of seemingly weightlessness, dizziness, and disorientation. The Sunborn had no problems in being around and handling large amounts of alchemical gold. Such gold was radiant with the light and perfection. The golden panel behind the sacred on contained plates that we would now call circuitry. Each plate corresponded to a dynamic within the sacred on. Understand that the chamber itself was as important in the whole operation of the sacred on as was the box itself. Okay, well, here's the picture on my original article. It's small, but you can see the artwork I did. Of course, it's not perfect. It's not, it's not exactly like it looked by any means. This is just to give you an idea. It's got the essence, though. It has the essence. So we're looking at it right now. The golden panel, like I said, that's the circuitry. The on box itself contains one, alchemical golden plates similar to the ones on the panel behind the Ark, but not identical. Instead, they face match with the thresholding plates. These plates inside the Ark box contain what Thoth calls the alphabet of the Ark. The second thing, 5 conducting terminals or gemstone quill scrolls. The third is the Kadmon sphere, which contains within it a duplication of the feminine heart triple poles. While men have 1 heart node, women have 3. The winged beings on the case helped to control the modulations with the actual on box by the positioning of the wings. In addition to the problems most humans had in touching or handling or even being in the presence of large amounts of alchemical gold when coming into physical contact with the light and perfection frequency of the entire sacred on energy device, such a contact would reverse the electromagnetic current in an ordinary male human body, causing the heart to immediately stop. This was due to the fact that most humans cannot maintain life current without the electromagnetic flow. It has no ill effect on the Sunborn, who did not totally rely on the electromagnetic current. Most human women, while perhaps somewhat affected by touching the on, would not receive a serious current reversal of their electromagnetic energies for the simple biological reason that they were on the same wavelength as the Kadmon sphere inside the on. While the Sunborn males guardianed the sacred on, it was the priestesses of on who operated it and became the living oracles when necessary for the transmissions received through it. Shortly before the destruction of Atlantis, Thoth, Racemas of Afra, was informed by the high priestess of On that the Ark must be moved to Atlantis in hopes of stabilizing that content. It had to be carried over land and by ship over sea by Thoth and his companions, rather than be transported via light Merkaba, as the On had to move across certain ley lines of the earth to then rest at the acupoint of Atlantis. Well, you could say, well, why couldn't the ship just fly really low? But apparently it had to be carried for various reasons of the currents of it, and perhaps the Merkaba of the ship would have contradicted those currents or whatever. Thoth and his companions made the journey with the On to Atlantis, while the new thresholding chamber was being prepared for it there. When it became apparent to Thoth that the sacred On would not stay in the hand of fate, and Atlantis would soon... Let me do that again. When it became apparent to Thoth that the sacred On would not stay the hand of fate, and Atlantis would soon be no more, he then transported the On to Egypt, where it eventually came into the keeping of the Syrian being Menon, and was housed in the special thresholding chamber inside Mount Sinai, now called Mount Moses by the Egyptians. Now, there's a lot of things going on around now that say, oh, well, Mount Moses was not the place of Moses. It was not the real place. That's just PR stuff. And they're citing another mountain, a very interesting mountain, with a lot of ancient artifacts and stuff, as being the true Mount Moses. And it's tempting to believe that because of all the neat stuff that's there. And it was an incredible place. But Thoth says, no, the actual Mount of Moses is the one that they think it is. I mean, the traditional think it is. The other places are amazing, but it's not the actual mountain where the On has been located and was many, many times. The On had been kept in this thresholding chamber once before, and then it returned to its chamber in Tibet. That's talking about in Egypt. We're talking about Egypt. The On had been kept, yeah, I read that. Okay, understand that the sacred On adjusts and heals the planet by moving it across and placing it on various Earth acu-lines and points. Now, so originally when all this acu-line point thing was going on, it had to be carried across the land. This type of thing is no longer in effect. It's moving now through other means. I'm not exactly sure what we could call it because it's not in a particular spaceship Merkaba. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just know that poof, it moves. And it has been moving for some time without having to be carried. So things have changed. There are pieces of this, that I still don't understand or have knowledge of. Thoth has given me certain things and other things he has not. But I will say that now in the current time, and for some time now on the planet, it has not had to been carried across the land to be moved properly. Of course, now it's not going anywhere until the ascension point because it's in its thresholding chamber here in Crestone, in the crest on the Stone Mountain. But we'll talk about that a little later. Centuries later, after the whole Tibet thing, Tibet and the fact that Thoth carried the On back into Egypt, and then, of course, it was moved inside Mount Sinai, which is in the Sinai Desert. Now, we're saying, centuries later, Moses, the son of Akhenaten, who were both adepts of the solar mysteries, came to the mountain to claim the sacred On for the promised land. However, it was made known to him through the obvious actions of the people he shepherded on this journey that they would not be able to abide the high frequencies of the On. It was at this point that Moses made the decision to create another ark, one that operated at frequencies that would be more beneficial to the people he shepherded and to the plan laid out before his etheric vision of the promised land. This second ark Thoth refers to as the Ark of Karma. Since the Hebrew priests of that age did not condone a woman to be in the presence of holy objects of power, such as the sacred On, they adamantly would not accept that only a woman or a woman at all could handle and be the oracle for the ark. To this point, Moses condescended, as he was conflicted in his own feelings about the matter, and also felt that without the cooperation of the priests, the ark would not be of use to the plan which he envisioned. So the second ark was adjusted in order for the priest to be able to interact with it. It was a wooden box with gold plating only. Some of the gold was alchemical, having been transported with them from the Egyptian temple, but it was mixed with gold mined from the earth. The Katim sphere was somewhat duplicated, but a certain component was not included so that the priest could more easily work with the ark. The rest of the internal mechanism was also duplicated in a fashion, but it wasn't until King Solomon's reign that the Ark of Karma was given a true gemstone scroll. Solomon then had 4 other arks created, each housing a separate scroll, so that there were 5 in all. These arks worked with the main sacred On, the Ark of Grace, at a distance. Even with the modifications, the second ark could not be directly touched by most men. There were no more sunborn in that age, so the priests operated the second ark through using certain tools that were non-conductive of the frequencies that were non-conductive. conducting, I guess, the frequencies of the ark, and thus generally limited their abilities to work with it. It has been speculated in the present time that the Ark of the Covenant was an electrical device that shocked anyone who touched it unless they knew the secrets of it. However, it has been my Akashic perspective that while there was some low-level electrical circuit current running through the arks, the greatest damage to the human body came through the dynamics I've explained in this article. The alchemical gold and the way it is put together in the sacred arm. From Moses, that causes, I'm sorry, let me continue with that a minute, that causes the electromagnetic current to simply be cut off. And the human heart cannot, exist in that. So that is the main reason why it has been so deadly to people, both the sacred arm of grace and the Ark of Karma, especially. The sacred arm, because it's really a more powerful device. From Moses' day on through Solomon's and to the current age, were women never allowed near any of the arks again, with the one exception being the sacred On, of course. Yet the sacred On and its offshoot arks are still with us. The prototypes are guardianed at various places, but the sacred On itself is now this is back in the 90s, after having moved many times hence, once again inside Mount Sinai. That was where it was when I wrote this article. There are the priests and priestesses on whole vigil with this object and continue to administer the light in perfection. It radiates. Of course, we need no physical objects to unite with the light in perfection within. Still, such sacred jewels do serve a purpose in aiding us along the journey to acknowledgement of the reunion. And that concludes that particular article. And now I'm going to read you the Shiny Mantle, which I refer to a lot. So again, this is something many of you probably read, but we're going to go through it a little bit here. In the ancient of days upon the earth, there was established in the land of Sin, S-Y-N, Sinai, a thresholding for the most sacred fire, the Ark of On. It had been brought from Tibet to Atlantis, and now it came to be the foundation for the pillar of light upon a mountain, Mount Moses, Sinai, in Sin. The Ark of On, like other arks, was a device which emitted both extremely high and extremely low energy. It could be used for communion with ultra beings as well as for purposes of healing. All the arks had the power to temporarily shut off the electromagnetic field in a living thing if it were touched by the life form or was within a pulsing field that could be sent out of it, which would result in instant death. However, the On was never employed for this purpose. The On was unique among arks, for it alone was served in the translating of the universal divine intelligence, radiant communion with Source. There were children arks that aided the On, receptors, so to speak, but they were dependent on the On as the main resonator. Moses had originally been given guardianship of the On, with the people with him in Sinai had misused, but the people, Moses had originally been given guardianing of the On, but the people with him had misused it during his absence, and it was taken away, and Moses had a lesser ark child built in its place. Now this apparently is Thoth speaking to me directly, so to speak. I, as Thoth Rasmus, had brought the On from Tibet to Atlantis and later to Egypt. It would later come into the care of the Syrian master Menon. There's some repetition here, but not a lot. In the days of Menon, the ark was within the thresholding chamber inside the Al-Kabar mountain, Mount Moses. Near this mountain was a compound of temples and grounds known as the An Sufur. Here in the An Sufur, the priests and priestesses of the ark communed with the Kyros, the illumined mind, through the transmissions of the On. Within the On, there was a sphere. As stated in a previous article by Maya, the On had no ill effect on the sunborn who did not totally rely on electromagnetic current, just as we've said before, so I'll skip that. Thus, while the priests managed translations from the oracle, priestesses, I'm sorry, this is not worded properly, and it's such tiny print. Okay, thus, while the priestesses managed translations, the oracle priestesses and taught practices for those who entered the school to learn how to create the ark of the body. It was the priestesses who were the ark oracles and more. They held the light codes of the On within them. In a sense, they were living arks, as the ark installed in their human energy field a replication of itself in a hollow form. It was only the priestesses who could come within close proximity to the On without physical distress or touch it without harm to them. The ark priestesses, or Kurios Satim, chosen by the illumined mind, would sit upon the cure or mercy seat of the On. Here's sort of another facsimile picture. This is the On at that period of time. Originally, the On did not have this seat. In Tibet, the Kurios team touched the ark directly, but as the magnetic field of the planet changed, this practice began to cause them a degree of illness when performing this task repeatedly. In Atlantis, Thoth built the Kur seat, which was attached to the On. It was made to distribute the energy of the On more equally into the body. We have a quote here from Wikipedia. According to the Bible, the mercy seat atonement piece was an object which rested upon the Ark of the Covenant and was connected with the rituals of Yom Kippur. The term also appears in the Pauline epistles and has a significance in Christian theology. The phrase mercy seat is not a translation of the Hebrew kaphorath, which appears in its place in the Masoretic text, nor of the Greek term, and there's another term, which takes the same place in something or other, but instead in the translations by William Tyndale of the German term so-and-so from the same narrative position in the Luther Bible. Oh my God, well, we won't even read on and on, but the point is, I think what they're making here is that it has had a lot of translations and interpretations as to exactly what this mercy seat was, but this is what Thoth is saying it is. The priestesses and priests of the Ansifur, the Ark, used the power of the Ark for healing, both of the earth and the living things upon it. One of the energy processes which were employed, and I'm not going to go into that, but it shows a positioning here. I use my Second Life avatar and with friends to try to, show that, but I'm not going to go into that here. Okay, then it talks about the Shambhala gates and how they reference and work with the sacred On. I'm not going to go into that here either. You can go back to this article if you'd like to read it. The On as a device is very sensitive to the Earth's electromagnetic field. Spikes in that field can cause all arts to become compromised. That's why cats and dogs were employed at times to be around the Ark, because they were able to bleed off some of that energy without harm to them. And these cats and dogs were special cats and dogs. They were bred, shall we say, especially for this purpose. Your average pet would probably not fare too well because they would absorb the energy too much and it would, do them harm. But these particular pets were not harmed in the least, and they were, operating it to tamp it down, to bring balance into the whole dimension of it. This is not a problem that the Ark of On has now, and we'll go into the very changes that have gone into this Ark in a moment, but we're looking at the old one, the old version of the sacred On at the time. Let's see. Ark hollow forms issuing from the On and beyond from the Universal Mother Ark were installed within the priestesses of the Ark and also at certain locations on the planet as earth arks. So inside the priestesses, they actually carried a hollow form of the sacred On, the priestesses that were working with it. But there were also hollow forms placed in the earth at different points. Let's see. The truest and finest purpose of the On is a vessel of grace. Those who come before it in pure heart may receive a lifting of karmic burden. We speak here not of the On as a device, but as a holy universal Merkaba, beyond the physical object. Thus, when one becomes the hollow form of the On and within them, so they may not only receive the grace they seek, but extend it to others. To touch the hem of the one who wears the shining mantle of On in a pure state of receipt is to indeed receive. Now there's a lot of other stuff here, and I'm not going to go into it all. What I really want to get into is the alphabet of the Ark. So that's where we're going to go next. And so now we're going to talk about and read about the alphabet of the Ark. And I seem to have printed off. Yes, I have it here. Okay, here we go. I am going to skip the first part, though, because it's telling everybody the same thing, more or less. So I'm going down to start with the alphabet of the Ark. The alphabet of the Ark is part of the language of Metatron, an archangelic alphabet. In the historic Kabbalah, there is mention of something called I writings, E-Y-E, or Ketav. Let me spell that. K-E-T-A-V is the first word, and the second word is E-I-N-A-Y-I-M, Ketav Iniyam. According to Thoth, the divine language form represented in the alphabet of the Ark is contained within the matrix of this greater angelic flame script. The actual I writings are composed of circles and lines in the form of small flames, an encoding of sorts. The symbolic keys to moving into the higher worlds of consciousness lie within this archangelic alphabet called the Ketav Iniyam. This alphabet, or series of symbol intelligences, such as the Elohim creator beings, use this template to project the elements of life into creations, such as the planet Earth. An analogy to demonstrate this principle could be seen in the projection of a movie onto a screen by a high-powered and focused beam of light coming from the projector. The projector and beam of light represent the Elohim creator being's consciousness. The celluloid and focusing device on the projector represent the template, and its synchronization function, the screen, represents the magnetic receptacle or matrix, which will receive the higher image, and the image movie is the creation itself. The celluloid of the archangelic language has a function which also keeps the lesser creation in synchronization with the higher template. Like the focusing device on the projector in our analogy, it is the harmonic resonance of these archangelic letters with both the higher vibratory frequency patterns of God's name and the elements of the lesser creation worlds, which allows this synchronization to occur. They act as an intermediary transducer, much as a tuning fork, which when struck and then being brought into proximity of another tuning fork will start the second fork to begin vibrating also. This occurs only if the second fork is tuned to a resonant harmonic of the first tuning fork's note or waveform. Now consider 3 tuning forks, each one of the second 2 tuned to a lesser resonant harmonic, slower vibratory frequency than the one before it. So you have da-da, 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 like that. They're going down the hill. Thus, the second now begins to vibrate at its own frequency note. Thus, when the first tuning fork is struck and placed into proximity with the second now begins to vibrate at its own frequency, and the third, also being in the correct position, will also begin vibrating at its own frequency pattern. Thus, we can say that now we have 3 levels of creation, all being put into motion from the first or uppermost level, which vibrates at the highest frequency. So long as the other levels are tuned or synchronized to the first in this manner, then the projection of the higher realm can occur in the lower. The slower vibration of the last tuning fork is a perfect image of the vibration of the higher tuning fork, but the rate of its vibration per unit of time has been slowed down. This is a good, simple model to demonstrate the principles involved in the projection of the elements of this world from the higher worlds of intelligence. The alphabet of the Ark is one such archangelic language which serves as the middle tuning fork for us. The sacred names of God, as we know them on earth, are composed of the archangelic alphabet, known as the KYI'RA, and also include the names of the angelic energies, which themselves are serving the purpose and function of being the middle tuning fork, and thus the language itself. These sacred names not only serve to provide the template for projecting the reality itself in the first place, but also to redeem it now as well. You see, the Earth's creation has gotten to be like a tuning fork which no longer vibrates well to the divine tuning fork and its angelic intermediary. Thus, the children of light on the earth must begin to attune themselves as the third tuning fork to the intermediary angelic tuning fork, which then in turn brings them into resonance again with the ultimate divine tuning fork. In time, the entire creation can be brought back into this vibratory pattern through the efforts of the children of light. I'm going to pause a moment. I'm seeing a lot of things that I know now, which I didn't know when I wrote this, which was many years ago in the early 1990s, and how the current reality that we're living in 2017 reflects on this. Because we are becoming these third tuning forks now. And even though it may not seem that way, because so much, negativity, we could say, is going on now, and the breakdown of light structures, we would think, because all the negative, the Nephilimic, the archonic, whatever you want to call it, is just flourishing before our very eyes. However, you see, that's the picture show. That's the picture show on the celluloid of their tuning forks that are not tuned to the sacred, but to the archonic cloud, as those we call it. It's a picture show. It's a display. It's like, the male bird or the male whatever animal that puffs itself all up and goes, "You can't come here, look how scary I am. I'm going to be the one to procreate here, not you." And they hover between, the female, the procreative vessel, and the male that's trying to inseminate her. And they're saying, "I'm the big guy. I'm all puffed up. You better be scared of me." And that's exactly what's going on now. Exactly. That's only one bird, mind you. It can be flattened in a minute. It's just that we don't see that. We recognize this awesome evil, and we think, oh my God, the sky is falling. So when we understand the principle involved here with this tuning fork thing, where we are becoming the Earth's tuning fork, because she is like saying, I'm having nothing to do with this, children. Work it out. You work it out. When you get it worked out, come to mama. And that's what we're doing. And when we get that vibration within our own being, that tuning fork vibration of the third fork, then we come in resonance with the angelic one, which then sends us on to the divine tuning fork, the fullest one. Okay, so let me continue here. The angelic vibratory codes necessary within the archangelic language will increasingly integrate with our own genetic consciousness forms as we prepare ourselves for the ascension. Thus, the sound of these vibratory patterns will be incorporated into the matrix of the body of creation. The matrix in this context is the vibratory pattern, which is currently the basis for the totality of the creation. The word matrix, however, represents various levels, differing levels of consciousness patterning. The matrix or seal of the human body consciousness, which would be broken for this process to integrate at a cellular level, is correlative to the defiled 666 genetic code, which is never a bad number. It's a reversal of the 999. And folks has always said, don't give it such a bad rap. But it's the breaking of the seal. It's the number that breaks the seal, which we have to have broken in order to become the new codex. The Adam Kadmon is the ultimate divine template for humanity, but also has been tampered with by the Nephilimic overlords. It is now being resurrected or reconstructed through the use of the vibratory patterns contained within the divine names, which are in turn formed from the archangelic language. Thus, as we incorporate these higher vibratory patterns into our own consciousness and genetic makeup, we become co-creators in the resurrection of the Adam Kadmon. When we have come into high enough resonance with the frequency patterns of the divine names within our own beingness, the pathways that open for the angelic beings holding these patterns to project their image directly into your holistic body, mind, soul template, thereby bringing you the last distance across the upper threshold into your divine heritage, full expression of the Adam Kadmon template. The Adam Kadmon template is actually comprised of the myriad different archangelic codes for human manifestation arranged into the patterns of the many divine names. A name is but a specific arrangement of different frequency patterns, much like a tune is comprised of various notes strung together in harmony. Thus, the Adam Kadmon can be seen as a direct manifestation of the tree of life. The sacred names, vibratory codes held upon the tree of life, are continually being evolved to find the strongest frequency patterns, and the weaker ones which can be violated by fall in forces. Let me try to do that again. And the weaker ones which can be violated by fallen forces are then culled from the tree. This is the tree of life. It contains the highest and strongest frequency codes in the form of the divine names, which the efforts of the hierarchy have been able to obtain. With the efforts of the hierarchy have been able to obtain, I guess. There's some typos, serious typos in this information. Oh gosh. The experience of souls within half-light orotronic worlds like Earth provides an excellent arena for determining which of these frequency codes or divine names can be utilized to withstand the manipulative efforts of the Luciferic angelics who separated from the divine inscription, which we must remember also have been created to uphold the function of holding higher templates for reality. It is thus that they are able to rearrange these patternings to suit their own agendas and then place them as overlays upon the divine templates, causing a confused pattern to manifest on earth, not at all like the intended pattern put into place by the true hierarchy of light. Thus, the use of these archangelic language patterns can reactivate our tuning fork so that it vibrates with the true pattern once again, that of the Metatronic Christic consciousness. The office of the Christ and the office of Metatron are master consciousness thresholds. They exist on three different levels or functions in the dynamic of the sacred names, i.e. vibratory frequency patterns. This threefold dynamic, concisely defined, is thus: Metatronic holds pathways from the higher worlds to the Adam Kadmon worlds. Christic holds pathways for the human unfoldment into the full potential of the Adam Kadmon, and then human holds the pathways for the passage of Adam Kadmon manifestation on earth or similar worlds. Let me go over that again. The threefold dynamic. Metatronic, which holds pathways for the higher worlds to the Adam Kadmon worlds. Christic, which holds pathways for human unfoldment into the full potential of the Adam Kadmon. And human, which holds the pathways for the passage of Adam Kadmon manifestation on earth or similar worlds. In the latter, the Great Pyramid holds a key for the earth to be able to access the Adam Kadmon frequency patterns in their undefiled state. And now from Thoth, directly, so to speak. There are many different circuits or pathways available for divine fire codes to be assimilated into a planetary reality such as Earth's. One of them is what we are referring to as the alphabet of the Ark. It is a specific archangelic frequency pattern with 24 main vibratory pathways, which align corporeal realms with the full light Metatronic Christ spiral in a specific path of viability relative to the core essence of Metatronic consciousness. The Ark of Grace is a sounding or tuning device for the human element in its integration with Metatronic consciousness, and this particular vibrational path of assimilation, the alphabet of the Ark, was chosen by the hierarchy for Metatronic consciousness to be returned to humanity. The alphabet of the Ark is encoded in alpha logic versus other fire codes which are encoded in omega logic. Oh, I'm sorry. The alphabet of the Ark is encoded in alpha logic versus other fire codes which are encoded in omega logic. Alpha logic is a pattern that interfaces with the evolution of human logical mind processes and can therefore be presented in correlative human language forms, whereas the omega logic interfaces only with higher mind principles incorporated in the soul and cannot be associated with any corollaries in human language expression. Thoth also tells us that the KYI'RA is the overall, or the I language, remember, is the overall format for which 144,000 different archangelic language stratum are contained within. Thus, the KYI'RA is formatted neither in alpha nor omega logic, but contains both inherent within it its overall design and is beyond that type of definition. The alphabet of the Ark was chosen as the most viable path for all of the 144,000 available pathways to work in synergy with a grounding device, such as the Ark of the Covenant. Thoth tells us that there has never been any other of these available archangelic pathways used in conjunction with a device like an Ark on the earth. However, some of the other 144,000 stratum or archangelic languages have been employed in various ways in the Earth's history and will continue to provide additional pathways to the greater light. But not through the Ark of the Covenant or the Ark of the Sacred On. They're working in different formats. But the Sacred On format is like the top of the heap, okay? The following was given by Thoth as part of the procedure for a sacred journey that I and Simeon conducted in 1997. Thoth relates to us that this archangelic language was to be utilized in the temples in Egypt, and why he assigned those who went on this journey specific ark names comprised of 4 specific vocables put together from the alphabet of the ark, which we used in chants in the Great Pyramid. Now, this is where it sort of really gets interesting. Well, it's all interesting, I think, but this is more workable interesting. These ark names, which many of you know, I've been putting out this alphabet of the ark name, personal names templates for people for some years now. But these ark names that he gave these specific vocables and whatever, are very simplified, because if you were to use the higher coordinates, it might not be what you're ready for yet, what I'm ready for yet. So they were really tamped down, really brought down into baby food for us to be able to use in this procedure in the temples. And it's the same language format that I'm using to do these personal art names for people as well. That doesn't mean that it's not very good. It just means that it's more compatible with our very sensitive little frail systems that we are operating in these days. Okay, so the chanting of the mantras formed from the alphabet of the ark vocables, which I have given, facilitated reactivation of the Metatronic Christic consciousness codes within the sacred vaults of the Egypt, in order to recapitulate the perfect ancient memory patterns contained therein for future generational light work. The sacred ark names are given as a means for the individuals on the journeys to integrate more completely with the Metatronic Christic full light spectrum through the archangelic language used in conjunction with the Ark of Grace, which is now stationed inside a chamber within Mount Sinai. The path of Horus, return to the stars, sacred journey, was in essence an opportunity for the recapitulation of one's human divinity accessed via a stellar coordinate, i.e. the path of Horus, which was what this journey had been called, which moves through the portal of space-time limitations and back into the Metatronic Christic spectrum of full light consciousness. The initiatic ritual enactment of the return to the stars, which the participants of this journey embarked upon, while not being the true physical passage, was nevertheless a measure of divine grace which can be imparted to the soul should the individual choose to fully accept it. The sacred ark name was given to each individual and is a tool for the seeker to employ in their efforts to merge once again with their higher dimensional presence. Okay, I've just finished reading that, and as I was reading it, a lot more was coming to me. Before I get into it though, I want to read a more current, very short addendum to this. This was received by me just about during my preparations to move to Crestone from Kauai. Thoth is now showing me a new light language is developing from the original alphabet of the Ark. This light language is not being given to me, at least not at this time, in vocables or words, but in pictographs. And then the first presentation is on this medallion, and somewhere. So these are the medallions here, and we're starting up a new series of energies here. I don't know where it was written. I cannot find it. But it talks about how these light language is literally pouring down on the physical earth and being saturated into the earth as not electromagnetic, but higher energy components of fire language. But I can't find where I wrote that, and I know I wrote it somewhere. So this particular symbol here, which is composed of this light language, the Ashkurim, brings you to full presence of the seven suns and the central sun portal of our universe, from which is radiating the golden star of Mizrael out of the Atasic. That said, the new light language, which Thoth is choosing to call the I-Hexari, intended to buffer the power of the solar path, is intended, and still feed us from its holy flame. Otherwise, gazing upon the full presence of it in living symbol representation would fry us considerably. So that's why we're using this symbol. Now, I'm relating this because I'm seeing how I'm being shown now that there is a combining of the frequency of this higher light language. That's a new component of the sacred On with the original alphabet of the Ark that's still present, can bring forth a new form of light engendered communication between human and angelic and radiant, the three tuning forks. I'm not going to go into it here because it's just now coming through to me, but I see it as a new demonstration of the alphabet of the Ark in the simple form, the baby pablum that I've been giving people through their templates and divine sacred names of the, alphabet of the Ark names, or their Ark names. And this will be another level of that. It won't be doing away with the first level. The first level is the first level, but it will be a second level of that. And so that's kind of a to be continued, because it's not part of this particular video, but it's the next part, so to speak. I will say in conclusion here that we need to realize that when the On was translated into its final thresholding chamber, which is the same etheric envelope, shall we say, that contains the enclave of Thoth in the crest and the stone, as you see here in the picture, and another betwixt in between dimension, of course. But when it arrived there, it was transformed. Maybe it was transformed in order to arrive there. I'm not sure which came first. But it's no longer just a box. It seems to have a shape as a box, but it's like a fluidium, and a rectangular box like you see here. But it's like a fluidium. And above it has appeared the Manasari, which is this pulsing sacred thing, energy sphere above it. And that is what I think should be the final reading on this, is about the Manasari. And then we'll conclude, because I know this is getting quite long. Okay, this is on the Ark of Metatron site. I have them spread all over the place. It really should be probably on Osiris Rising, but this was written before I started Osiris Rising. So anyway, the Sacred On was relocated in January of 2014 from Sinai to its new and final thresholding chamber within the Crest and the Stone Thoth Retreat, inside the Challenger Peak Mountain near Crestone, Colorado. It is here it will stay until LP40 Ascension. Yet this object that we refer to as an ark, indeed the true Ark of Grace, is far more than a physical device. It has developed its light program through the centuries and has become something beyond that which it was when was first created on the planet Rigel in the constellation of Orion, and was translated into its first thresholding within Tibet. So we couldn't carry it, or nobody could carry it around now. See, it couldn't be transported across like Thoth did, across the earth. That's why it's just being zapped into this place, because it's an energy component that's so dynamic now. You couldn't get hold of it, even if you had the physical ability to touch it, which some do. You couldn't grab it. It's like plasma light, all of it, even the box, much less the Monosari, which is beyond that. Okay, so as it was transported dimensionally into its current thresholding chamber, the On became the Ark of the Risen Dawn. We give it this name for as the solar disk within it rises, so the sphere of the transmuted crystalline particles of or Monosari sends radiations outward through the Earth, connecting to and creating holographic imagery within the pyramidus radius matrix of the planet. And from this matrix is impressed into the DNA and mental construct of those among humanity who are able to receive it at this time. The Monosari collects and gathers the seeds of divine from major nodes upon the earth, the primary being the Kaaba at Mecca, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, a yet-to-be-revealed Temple of the White Lion in the Yucatan, the Gate of the Sun at Tiwanaku atop the Altiplano of Peru, not the ruined structure by that name, but what lies beneath it, the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, the Chamber of the Crystal Skull of Hawaii, the Labyrinth of Sias in Australia. Again, it's Egyptian in origin, but the location is not revealed. The Kardash Kamut stone in Iraq, not revealed. All of the Magdalene temples, mostly not revealed, location only. I think it's called the Venusian temples. The location is given, but not the actual point of the temple. And all solar lords whose suspended state bodies still hold the matrix for the cellular DNA transference. And more. It doesn't give the rest of them here. As all is gathered by the Monosari, so it is brought into a cohesive whole and ignited by the pure white flame at the center of the Monosari sphere. This process began in May of 2014 and will continue for many years until the Ashatan is complete and LP40 begins. Ashatan means the latter days. Let's look at it for a moment. Oops. Well, it's on my Spirit Mythos site, and for some reason it's not allowing me on my own Spirit Mythos site, so I can't give it to you right now. I was just on that site, so I don't know why it's not coming up. But anyway, so Thoth, how does this relate, if indeed it does, to the here and now and what people are currently experiencing in life? Thoth states, those who came to this planet as children of the sun are being awakened now to take their missions to greater and more personal level of service. They are taking upon them the dross of the Ashatan and holding open the furnace of the heart to pour these things into the transforming flame. As they do so, those of earth who are their children, who come out of the later phases of their existence in the earth, shall be lifted into the thought of oneness. The process now ongoing from the Monosari is penetrating the stralium of divine genesis of all humans participating in world consciousness. I bet you I can't open this either, but we'll see. No, I did. Good. Okay. Now this is on Spirit Mythos too, so I don't know why the other wouldn't open. But in any case, the stralium are the radials of Metatronic light, which are designed to penetrate the subsuvial membrane of an soul being and infuse the corporeal body of that soul's matter expression with the codes of divine kinship, and thus service beyond the tapestry of karmic revolutions. We can go on to find out what the subsuvial membrane is, a contact substance of interface between the etheric and the corpuscles of the blood. So let's back this off a little bit here. And I'm asking, this taking upon them the dross of Ashatan sounds heavy duty. How is this manifest in their lives basically? It is evident for each one. They know who they are and what they are experiencing. Is it not so? Out of this experience, it is for each to respond to the highest dictate of the soul. So what Thoth is indicating is this children of the sun passage. This is not coming into everybody's experience. it's coming to a lot of people's experience, but they have to be out of this children of the sun dynamic, their souls having been brought through this process for the planet. This doesn't make them better than anybody else. It just simply means that's their God job. Thoth has revealed to me that the children of the sun are in the process of creating zeta bodies for moment-to-moment alignments, moving through fractured time. This is a very difficult meta-science to comprehend, at least for me, so I am not attempting to map it out here. You might care to read Thoth's short discourse on the topic of zeta bodies. We're not going to do that. You can go to, if you go to this website, Ark of Metatron 777, and you type in Sacred On, you should come up with this Sacred On, Ark of the Rising Dawn, or you can also find it in the related links on the top pages of the Osiris Arising, because there's just too much here to go into. We're down to the final on this video, and I want to keep it as brief as possible. Let's see, so now I lost my place. It goes to the Ariel Ohim of the Seraphim play key roles, and is talking about that, and you have a link for that. The new epoch of Ishoaba, which we entered in 2012, is fully upon us now. A suggested short viewing video I made in 2012 embraces the spirit of what is being asked of all earth dwellers at this time, and perhaps special emphasis on the children of the sun. That's that link there. An added footnote, the divine feminine in humanity is especially connected to the dynamic of the sacred On and all that it evokes in the dimension of spirit. This is true for those in male incarnation as well, for they do still contain the seed of divine feminine. However, souls now in feminine embodiment will find they are being called to exemplify the Ishoaba presence in the world, even more so now in the new epoch. And this is the symbol of the Ark of the Rising Dawn that was given to me. It's very simple, but it has keynotes in it that are engraved within the image, so to speak. And so, my dears, I think we're going to finally conclude here. I read rather fast, and I apologize for that, but you know, you can go to the Osiris Arising site. Top of on the pages, you'll find links to reference links. And if you go up there, you're going to get just about everything, I think everything that I read here and more in regard to the Sacred On. So, where does this take us? It's a large topic. It has a lot of high-end metascience, quantum physics involved, and it can get pretty mind-boggling. But when it comes right down to it, the Sacred On is a manifestation of what is in each and every one of us and is being called to activation at this time, most especially within the children of the sun, as Thoth frames it, because those are the vanguards, those are the ones that are helping the others move into this expression. And as we help one another, so we achieve our own higher state of expression. There's much more that could be said here, but I'm all tuckered out, so I'm going to stop, and I'm sure you are too, by just listening to it. So we will end the recording here, and may God bless us all in love and light.